And if you know a Mason, tag a Mason. I have some very, very breaking news. I found Prince Hall's actual petition, handwritten petition, and he signed his signature as being from the African Lodge, not African. There was never an African lodge, and these files are housed in London, and I will be showing you them here today. Get some people in. This is going to be a bit of a deep dive. So one may ask, what is the importance of me pointing out Prince Hall right now during this Revolutionary War anniversary? Well, it came to my attention on last year that the Masons celebrated 250 years along with the Marines, and I had just never seen that before. I had never seen these two anniversaries put together. So my mind started tingling about this, and it made me do some deep dives, which we're going to get into today. Now, if you're new to my channel, I am Queen Janice. I have discovered a lot. I have a whole army of historians here online, and I've had that since about 2019. Some call me General Janice. I've been Queen Janice. I've been Chief Janice. I've been a lot. I've played the background a lot with information that I've brought to the forefront, like the flooded cities. No one talked about that before me. The Japanese bombs that were dropped, the land patents, us owning very large amounts of land, a lot of cities that were forgotten about. That's kind of my lane. You know, history that's kind of untouched. I take it and I unpack it in a way using mainly military files. Now, here we are again today, just when I thought that I had seen everything, you know? What else is there to unpack about American history? We have something here. Share the live, click like as you come in. This is not a sponsored channel. Again, I'm Janice. This is not a sponsored channel. I don't get paid to lie to you. I don't get paid to tell you anything that anybody is telling me to tell you. I should be live right now on Facebook, perhaps, if they even sent my notification out, and YouTube. If you are on TikTok, I'm not going to go live on TikTok, but feel free to clip this and put clips of this on TikTok. I will be live every week. Now, if you are a captain on the water, you will get something like this. I'll just go ahead and open it. I wasn't going to open it, but I'll go ahead and open it. You will get something like this. Everybody in the Navy who operates vessels, they have it. Everybody in the Marines who have ever operated a vessel, they have it. You'll get something like this that opens up. You'll get the protractor. You'll get this, a fixed point divider. I'm just showing you these things. They all tie in together. A fixed point divider. Okay. I'm not going to take that apart because I don't want to break anything. You will get pencils, protractors, whole 9 yards. Okay. In order to navigate the waters. If something happens in America and the electricity goes out, the people who are operating on the waters as captains are will be able to navigate without electricity because they'll be able to map the stars. They'll be able to find their way. Now, during the early 1600s, 1700s, and even before, there was an issue in the water where most people had a compass that when they get in the middle of the ocean, it scrambles. But because America had metals, they were able to create a compass here in the middle that went, here using a metal that went north and south. Now, nobody is able to take credit for this invention because it was particularly made with metals from America. Okay? So, an American vessel was the only vessel that had said compass that went north and south. This is very important, especially as it relates to revisionist history. A lot of people will say, well, the Ethiopians were great navigators. They'll skip over the Mayans and they'll say the Dutch were the great navigators of the world. Well, how were they able to navigate if they didn't even have the compass? And so now we have the situation where we're unpacking files and we're seeing that, well, the Americans were actually building boats. There are lots of shipyards along the eastern seaboard that are unaccounted for. There are lots of seaman schools, masonry schools, artesian schools, more schools that's along the eastern seaboard with this huge maritime industry that indigenous dark-skinned men were wiped out of that ended up becoming the Marines. Now, if you are a little confused, I will go over a little difference between the Marines and the Navy. So, and I'll do this by using the Continental Congress resolution. So, the act of, let me see, where do I want to go? There's an act that established the Marines. The Continental Congress established the Marines. November 10th, 1777 was the resolution, resolved by 2 battalions of Marines to be raised. That is the date that the current Marines use. November 10th, 1777, Tons Tavern. Now, most people miss that Tons Tavern was also a Masonic lodge during that era. I don't know what it is today, but Tons Tavern was a Masonic lodge. The Marines was the battalion. Now, let's go over the actual Navy. The Navy was the Naval Act of 1974, an act to provide a naval armament. Okay, the law authorized construction of 6 frigates: USS Constitution, USS Constellation, this is very important, USS United States, USS Chesapeake, USS Congress, and USS President. Now, the Navy was just a fleet of boats. The Marines were the warriors. They were the force of people to operate the naval fleet. It's very different from how it is today. Today, the Navy is the fleet and the men all together. It was separate as the constitutions and the resolutions were written from the founding fathers in the founding documents. They were 2 separate things. One was actual fleet, one was Marines. Now let's see what the Marines were actually like. What were they supposed to do once they got on the boat? What was their job? The job of the Marines, for the Continental Marines, they were shipboard security. They were to board enemy vessels, amphibious raids, land operation, and protecting officers, maintaining discipline, so forth and so on. This is the Marines' own words. So a highfalutin pirate almost. Their job was to take over enemy vessels, guard their own vessels in the Navy as security, and man the guns that were on the boats. The boats were a lot like the one that's behind me. This is one of my family's boats. Has been in my family since about, I don't know, I know the late 1800s. We just can't date how far it is back, but it is a gun boat. It has about 18 guns on each side. So now we get into why I think Prince Hall ties into this. I'm researching Prince Hall, and I'm going to share my screen here. And like I said, a couple of things caught my attention with Prince Hall in particular. Please share the live, guys. We should have at least 3,000 people in here by now. This is going to upend American history. We're about to change history again. Now, Prince Hall's his information is, they kind of murk the waters on his information, and now I see why. Seeing that I saw him actually sign his signature, the document that he signed, and it didn't say African Lodge, it said African, which means superior. I see why they covered this whole thing up. Let's look at Prince Hall's. Let's look at his website. Let's look at the Masons' websites really quick and see what it says about Prince Hall. Let me see. Can I shrink myself? I may have to just take myself all the way out the screen so that we can see, get a good, clear picture of. Now I want to keep myself on the screen. Yeah, I think I want to keep myself on the screen, but I want to make sure we get a good picture of this. A brief history of Prince Hall Masonry in Massachusetts. Now, if you're an indigenous historian, you know that there was something really strange going on in the Massachusetts area, the 1600s and the 1700s, where they were actually stealing Indians from Massachusetts and putting them into slavery. They were putting them into slavery in Barbados. They were sending them to Martinique. They were sending them all around the world. But it wasn't just that it was Indians. They were actually stealing artisans. They were stealing captains. So keep that in mind as we talk about the Prince Hall Masons in Massachusetts. Now, on March 6, 1775, Prince Hall and 14 men of color were made Masons in Lodge 441 of the Irish Registry, not Scottish. There's a big difference between Scott and Irish. It is very important that we surgically do this. Irish Registry, attached to the 38th British Foot Cavalry at Castle William Island in Boston Harbor, Massachusetts. This is a military lodge. So right here, we have entered Prince Hall into the military. Now, do the Marines have this on record? They don't. They don't. Now, the 38th British Foot Cavalry Infantry at Castle William Island. Castle William Island was actually a large military fortification on an island. Boston Harbor, Massachusetts marked the first time that Black men were made Masons in America. That's also not true, but this is groundbreaking information. I'm going to skip down here. It says, under it, African Lodge was organized on July 3rd, 1776, with Prince Hall as the worshipful master. And now I'm too close again, because on July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was written. So I have Prince Hall becoming a master on a British vessel, not any British vessel, not any British fortification, the one that they needed to actually win the war and kick the British out. Now, this British situation had been going on ever since the Beaver Wars. The Beaver Wars was happening in the Ohio region where the British came over and tried to take the fur trade over. At that time, there was a chief called Blue Jacket. Chief Blue Jacket. Y'all can write this down. Please take notes and feel free to, do further research. Chief Blue Jacket. So the Shawnee tribe. After him, Tecumseh. But before him was Chief Blue Jacket. And it's very important to note because during the Revolutionary War, you have two sides fighting, the blue coats and the red coats. Here, you're looking at the red coats with Prince Hall and these 14 men that I'm going to if I had to just use my melanin to transport to this era to see what they were doing, I'm going to say this was a large indigenous military operation where the Iroquois Confederacy split and one was charged to take over these British vessels to get them out. But it looked like they were fighting, but it was possibly all a military operation. We've never put Prince Hall in the military. So one day after these men took over the boat and Prince Hall took over the boat as the master of the vessel, the Declaration of Independence was written. And I'm surprised no historian has pointed this out. This needs to be noted. And to make sure that this was not changed, I went to the Wayback Machine to see how it was written in the same thing. March 6, 1775, Prince Hall and 14 men of color were made Masons in Lodge 441, Irish Registry. And down here it says under it, African Lodge was organized on July 3rd, 1776, with Prince Hall as the worshipful master. Now, don't let the spookism that was added into Masonry scare you from the term worshipful master. It's very different during that era than it is today. Worshipful master is just like honorable judge. The judge was a position, worshipful was the title. Honorable was just a title, a salutation, if you will. Now, it wasn't just Prince Hall. I found quite a few other princes and nobles that were on the water, fighting on both sides of this war, all coming from Indian tribes. They wasn't from Africa. They weren't from Great Britain. They weren't darkies from Britain. They weren't Moors from Spain or any of that. I was doing one of my clients' genealogy, and in her records, it had a Prince Cato. And so I was talking to her about Prince Cato to see whether that could have been an angelicized version of the Caddo tribe. And just as surely, she and her family are from the Caddo territory. So we have a Prince Cato, a Prince Von, Prince Hall, Prince Bent, a Negro prince. They didn't put his name on the military records, but these are from the actual military records that I was able to find. A Prince Herbert, a Prince Sackett, a Prince Downey, Prince Easterbrook, Prince Sherman, Prince Gardner, Prince Wanton, Prince Peter Freeman, Prince Hammond, Prince Reese, Prince Reeves, Prince Raiden. Do you get it? So it's not a fluke. It's not that, this one guy, Prince was attached to his name by accident. I just want to make that clear for you guys. Now, a naval master here. I'm just letting you know that the master was a position on a boat. Okay? The master or sailing master, please continue to click like and get people in here. We're going to be doing this all week, breaking a lot of different topics down, all relating to the Revolutionary War and how our men were erased to make it look like this is some kind of hero white guy from Europe who came over here and won the war and freed America from the tyranny of their cousins who are also European. They got outflanked by a group of indigenous darkies from America. That's what the military operation is seemingly like to me. The master, the sailing master, is a historical rank for a naval warrant officer trained in and responsible for the navigation and ship handling of a sailing vessel. Then it talks about the Royal Navy. The master was ranked with, but after the lieutenant. Now think about this. Prince Hall and his guys were taking over the British vessels. Now, Great Britain had no boat site. It did not have the wood that could build boats that could sustain salt water. So people came to America to get charters, to get boats built, and then they took them back to wherever they were from. It's still like that today. It was very well documented during World War I. We had an issue during World War II where Japan and in Germany and all these people needed metals to make their boats, to make their fleets, and they had to come to America, pay us in cash to get their scrap metal to make their boats. Now, Japan got upset because they didn't want to pay us in cash to get scrap metal to make their fleet of boats. And so they start sending bombs. Over 9,000 bombs dropped on America. That's what activated the 555th or the triple nickels to jump out of planes to put out fires all across America. There's always been an issue. During World War I, we had a fleet of boats that went from the Marines, American Marines, and gifted to what we now call Great Britain. These people never had large fleets of boats, but due to revisionist history, they're able to write a group of people out and write themselves in. You follow? Talks about Russia, Spain. This just goes on and on about the different masters on the boats and the duties of said master. Master duties was navigation, taking the ship's position at least daily and setting the sails as appropriate for the required course and conditions. During combat, he was stationed on the quarterdeck next to the captain. The master was responsible for making sure the vessel had all sailing supplies necessary for the voyage. The master also in charge of stowing the hold and ensuring the ship was not too weighted down to sail effectively. The master, through his subordinates, hoisted and lowered the anchor, docked and undocked the ship, and inspected the ship daily for problems with the anchors, sails, masts, ropes, pulleys, etc. Issues were brought to the attention of the master and would notify the captain. Now today, on the boats today, the master is the captain. They're kind of interchangeably because, of course, we're not using these same boats with all of these sails on it, which my family's boat is missing a lot of sails. And that's where I come. That's where the youngest come in to get these things kind of, taken care of. Now, just to refresh your memory, I know you want it refreshed. I did find a payload of ship records from that era just to make sure that it was truly us on these vessels. Company, a list of the company of the boats: Lydia, Ebenezer Arnold, master of the boat. Okay, it was 113 tons, bound to St. Christopher's from Middleton. Okay, this is 1812, War of 1812, the war that happened directly after the Revolutionary War. This is Ebenezer Arnold, master. Places of birth, Middleton. Place of residence, Middleton. Age, 20-year-old master. Complexion, dark. It's not a fluke. His mate, Joseph, also from Middleton, also with his place of residence, Middleton. He was 47, his mate. Also dark, as you see, ditto going down, okay? Aaron Clark was the second mate. From Middleton, live in Middleton, 21 years old. Complexion, dark. John Rush, merchant seaman. He was the merchant on the boat, on the ship. Also from Middleton, he was 28 years old. His complexion was light. Okay. Not to be confused, some records, very few that you will be able to find, but if you find a white person on one of these records, they will be sallow. This is like uh, sallow means pale. Here's another list of names, places of birth, resident, and description of persons who composed this ship company of the schooner called the George Washington L. Stevens. Master bound from New Haven to St. Bartholomew. Okay. And then you got Stephen Martin from New Haven. He's the master. You have Joseph as the mate, New Haven. Some of these are left blank. He's 30 years old, 5 feet, 11 inches, complexion dark. Oh, no. I'm reading it right. Yeah. Let me see. Am I reading it right? Oh, yes. His is left blank. Butler, Bradford, same thing. He's 18 years old, complexion dark. See all these D's? That's for ditto. Dark, 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 dark. Okay? It's just literally not a fluke. Please share the live, guys. I just want to do that to prove really quickly that these are black men that we're dealing with here on these boat records. I mean, there's thousands of boat records, thousands of them. If you are interested in this file set, it is on uslineage.com. Just type in ship manifest and these boat records will come up. Now you will see some ship manifest, as I've showed on here before, that said, it shows what they are actually transporting on the boat. So you may see something that says staves. Now the T is kind of faint, so it may look like slaves, but I can assure you, if you read the full document, it says staves. Now let's keep going. Let's keep kind of unpacking this a little bit. There was a uniform. Originally, the sailing master did not wear an officer's uniform, which caused problems when they were captured because they had trouble convincing their captors that they should be treated as officers and not ordinary seamen. 1787, the warrant officers of wardroom rank, master, purser, and sergeant received an official uniform. And I'm here to tell you, the official uniform did include an apron. Now, I did a little, jumping timelines here just to let you know about the Indians in the Massachusetts area that were kind of that were being stolen and shipped to other places in the Caribbean and sold into slavery. They weren't ordinary people, but this was happening during the King's Philip War and wars that after, from the Wampanoag tribe, the Narragansett tribe, a lot of tribes that were up there in that region. People were getting captured. As you can see here, many Narragansett captives were sold to buyers in the Caribbean and Bermuda. They were fully 100% American Indian. The slave trade was happening backwards. And Prince Hall and other men, indigenous men, were trying to stop it. So if you see some rhetoric saying that Prince Hall was possibly from Martinique or somewhere else down in the Caribbean, he was not. He was stopping the slave trade from happening from the northern tribes down to the Caribbean. And he wasn't the only one. There was the Continental Marines that was stopping this trade from happening because there were laws put on the books. There were many laws written that made it illegal, kind of like the Jones Act is today. There were laws during that era that made it illegal for anybody to be on our waters who aren't American. So you had to have an American on the water in order to navigate inland. No foreign vessel could come inland. They were relegated to the coastline. So even during the Beaver Wars, when the British attempted to take control over the fur trade, they had to go up through Canada and try to take over that way by way of Canada because they cannot go inside of the waters. Now, to kind of give you some more history on Prince Hall so that we can unpack this African Lodge thing. Let me share my screen again. Hey guys, continue to click like as you come in here. You may not think that this is necessary, but we don't know how many Prince Halls was on the water during the Revolutionary War. What we do know that is that the Marines was created, it was deleted, and then it was recreated. However, the Marines today use the old date as if it was never taken off the books and then recreated. The African Lodge number 459 was the founding lodge of the Prince Hall Freemasonry. It was a lodge from which all modern Prince Hall lodges trace their descent. Prior to the American Revolutionary War, Prince Hall and 14 other free black men petitioned for admittance to the, at the time, Boston St. John's Lodge. They were turned down and then ended up being a part of blah, blah, blah. Now, the St. John's Lodge was very interesting because you do have the there's the Beaver Wars. If you're just showing you things that you can read more about. The Beaver Wars, also known as the Iroquois Wars or the French and Indian Iroquois Wars, were a series of conflict fought intermittently during the 17th century in North America throughout the Great Lakes region and the St. Lawrence River Valley, which pitted the Haudenosaunee Iroquois with an active support and arming by the Dutch and later. And all this shit has been written, like rewritten, revisionist history. Anyway, I just also want you to keep that in mind for the sake of conversation. I also want to show you that there was in fact a blue jacket, which is the origin of the blue coat, which today's army are saying that they descended from. Blue jacket was a war chief of the Shawnee tribe. Known for his militant defense of Shawnee lands in the Ohio country. As you know, states then everybody had its own. The states were its own country. Kind of like you see how Africa is today. America was once that, where each state was its own country. Okay? Some call it a province, some call it a country. The American Indian leader, in other words, I'm just showing y'all, because this is going to be a short show. I'm just showing y'all some things that you could take note of while we go through this. Of course, the American Foundation, July 4th, 1776, Masonry with Prince Hall, July 3rd, taking over one of Britain's most difficult strongholds in the Boston Harbor, July 3rd, 1777, one day prior to. Now, you may say this is nothing, but it is. It's a lot. And I'm about to show you why it means a lot. Let's go over Prince Hall's. Oh, no, I want to show you guys this. So that you can know to tie it in together that these guys weren't just people from Africa. Please continue to click like in here, guys. Get more people in here. Somebody said British ran the seas. Ship had many black sailors. British didn't run shit. I'm telling you that right now. They didn't run the seas. They got overtaken militarily. I want y'all to know that the Haudenosaunee, aka the Iroquois Confederacy, did wear aprons. The same aprons that you see the Masons wearing. They wore aprons as well. So this is an indigenous attire. Some call them wampum aprons. Wampum. Some call them wampums, or some just call them Haudenosaunee aprons. Okay. And these aprons were made of animal skin. Okay, so just so you can put two and two together, the Haudenosaunee Hiawatha belt apron. Now, when you take the indigenous men and put them in the context of the military and put them in the context of all of these boat records, then you can see a clearer picture of these weren't just savages. They were savvy business owners. They did not let foreigners come inland inside of America. You had to stay to the ports, come to the ports, tell us what you need, and we'll get it for you. There were millions of people inside of America working farms, mining, doing all kinds of things. Family ran operations. This was not federalized. These were family ran operations, merchants attached to families. All of the waters were controlled. You had private boat captains and masters and seamen and moors. Moor being a position on the boat, the guys who actually tied the boat up, that was also a position on the boat. Now, I'll prove that a little bit later on. You had families running these operations. And so when you see families dressed to the nines, very wealthy looking, they were running a lot of operations. You had families that were making flags to go on the boats. You had family that was doing woodwork to make the poles that go on the boats. You had families that were mining. They were just doing all kinds of stuff. It was a well-ran operation that we have been just literally erased from. So yes, the Hiawatha belt apron. And if you are a master on a boat, you would use this apron to hold your tools in so that they can be readily available for navigation. Now, here's where it gets really, really interesting. I got my timer set. Oh my God, I got 1 more minute left on the timer. I got my timer set here because I'm supposed to do a 30-minute show, but I think it's going to go a little bit over 30 minutes. For those of you who were on Who Stole the Cookies, you guys probably heard me say that I was trying to get a quartermaster's manual. Well, I was able to get my hands on a book that was rewritten in 1832 that every master, everybody in the Navy who runs boats, everybody in the Marines who formerly run boats, even the privates have to use. Now, if you're in the chat and you know what this book is, do not say what this book is in the chat. I'm going to reveal what this book is by the end of the week. Now, I've read this book as much as I can. Okay. In this book, it talks about the compass. This is a navigational book for, like I said, every master, every captain that's in these higher levels operating vessels. They have to know this book in order to even get to the level of operating a boat. Now, this book has many chapters, and one of the chapters is mathematics, geometry, algebra, and trigonometry. Geometry, algebra, and trigonometry. You know, all the difficult math subjects that we had to learn in high school that we didn't know what it was for. It's to be used on the water and navigation to navigate the constellations and stuff. Now, I remember hearing somebody say, "Oh, math was created by the Ethiopians. The Ethiopians created math, created geometry that you guys use today." Y'all got to prove it. Because you can't these books aren't readily available. These are very old books that only high-ranking people have. I got it from a high-ranking, but I borrowed it from a high-ranking, from an actual boat captain, just to read it cover to cover so I can get it back to him to his library. How did the Ethiopians create geometry and they did not have an industry that needed geometry? It's desert over there. Meanwhile, America have more waterways than anywhere on the planet. In order to navigate these waterways, you had to know what you were doing. So the American Indians couldn't have been savages. They seemed pretty astute to me if they had to know all this stuff. Again, this is a rewrite from 1832. They just switched some of the names around to attempt to erase the American Indians, the dark-skinned men, out of history. But they couldn't even erase them all the way out of history, even with this book. It's hard to rewrite this book. And so now when you look at the Masonic symbol, when you look at the Masonic symbol, some of them will have a G in the middle. A G stands for geometry. It'll have this, and it'll have a G in the middle. G for geometry. Now, people have turned these organizations into some kind of spookism, so that American Negro men will be turned away. But I'm here to tell you, this organization is the oldest bloodline in America. And it's so much so where you had to be in the family in order to get in. I don't know whether it's still like that now, but I know all throughout the early 2000s, it was like that. You had to know, you had to be a part of the bloodline to get in. And it was an issue at the turn of the century where foreigners wanted to come over and be a part of this organization, and they weren't allowed to get in. So they created another Masonic organization called the International Masons. Very different from this. Now, one would ask, why did the Americans not want outsiders in their organization? What they had to hide? Were they hiding something? Was it a lesson that they didn't want anybody else to know? Were they trying to keep an industry to themselves so that generation after generation after generation, their descendants can have jobs? Were they trying to keep control of their own rivers and their own lakes and their own coastlines so that foreigners could not come on the inside? These are all things that are important. These are all things that are very, very important. What else did I want to show y'all? I told y'all about that. I'm just trying to make the show. I'm supposed to be off of here already. St. John's. Okay, yeah, St. John's here. Wanted to show y'all what this St. John's thing was, that Prince Hall was petitioning to be a part of the St. John's Parade. The St. John's Parade was a military procession. Military procession on St. John's Day in 1776 were primarily significant as annual Freemason events rather than tactical Revolutionary War parades. In early American colonies, notable Boston, Masonic military lodges had formal processions in full regalia to celebrate St. John the Baptist Day on June 24th. St. John or Prester John. Now, I'm not sure why people aren't connecting the dots here. But of course, this is a rewrite. This is a rewrite to separate again the Masons from the military by saying, oh, it wasn't a tactical Revolutionary War parade. It was just a Masonic military lodge parade. Well, first of all, no one even fucking ever said Masonic was military. Nobody even ever said that. Why nobody put two and two together? Well, if you would have been told us. But in order to cover it up and let somebody figure it out, let's just say, well, these weren't the tactical guys. Well, what I do know is that Prince Hall and 14 other guys on July 3rd, 1776, took over one of British most stronghold. But now, mind you, this is what they had the Tea Party at years ago. Even after the Tea Party dumped out all these people, TD people was out, we still here. We ain't going nowhere, still ain't going nowhere, and what? Then next thing you know, some YNs come, and I'm just saying YNs just for the sake of culture. Next thing you know, some YNs come walk in your trap and take over. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. Some YNs come and walk in your trap and take over, and in less than 24 hours, there was a Declaration of Independence being written. Are y'all following me? Now, let's get to what we're here for. Prince Hall's letter in his own handwriting. And I'm actually even going to give y'all the source where y'all can find, because I want every Mason to be able to know this and see this, because revisionist history has taken a toll on this bloodline, the oldest bloodline. And it's time that we stop it and really see what was Prince Hall trying to say. I'm going to actually read something. This is not the last thing that I'm going to show, but I want to make sure we show this. Prince Hall in his own handwriting, hidden in a museum in London. I'm going to go, this is his petition. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom where he is to sign. Here is his signature. Can you see? Uh-oh. I'm a little bit over my time. Okay, you see here. I'm going to read this to you. It says loving. You can see where it says loving there. And brother, Prince Hall, Master. You see that? Prince Hall, Master of the Efrican, EFRICAN Lodge number 1. I know some of you guys are saying, please click like in here if y'all can hear me and see this. Put some fire emojis in the chat if you can see what I'm showing you here. I need all of y'all to click like in here. Thank you guys for sending the super chats. I'll read the super chats when I get done with this. This says of the Efrican Lodge. Tag a Mason. Get the Masons in here. Efrican Lodge number 1, June 30th, 17. Look like this is 1784. Now, one may say, well, no, that's it. That's just him mistakenly writing. No, that's an A. No, that's an A. But it looks like an E. No, that's an E that looks like an E. And I'm about to show you. Just hold my mule. I'm about to show you. This says Honorable Earl of Effingham. That's how Prince Hall was writing his E's. He made a distinction. Honorable Earl of Effingham. Those are his E's. Now let's go back down. Efrican Lodge. Wowzers! You almost had us fooled there. Guys. We almost thought that Prince Hall wanted to be African. The revisionist history revised it so that they were African Lodge. Prince Hall didn't say that. This is his handwriting, his petition, hidden in London, and it's nowhere over here in America. It's housed in London. He said he was from the Efrican. He was master of the Efrican Lodge. Now, who's responsible for changing this information to African? There's a lot of money into putting these indigenous dark-skinned American men and women. There was a lot of money putting into turning us into African for this industry alone. Because if foreigners are able to control our waters, then they can control us. They can control the amount of money that goes in and out. You got to think about it. During this era, it wasn't just car. It wasn't cars on the road. Boats were the mode of transportation. The waterways that they came and dammed during the world wars, these were modes of transportations to get commodities to the station where they needed to be shipped out to the world. Families made money. Boats had a position called a purser, the person who held the money. The purser also wore an apron. The master also wore an apron. So how was this changed to some kind of spooky woke organization where this is about mankind? I don't know, whatever spooky stuff that they say about the Masons. I don't know, the Masons today, they're just doing fish fries. I could tell you one thing. They ain't doing no marine type stuff. Now let's go, because I did try to find Ifri. I did find a definition of Ifri. Old Norse and English definition. In each language, it means the upper, higher, superior. Everywhere you go, superior, better. Everywhere you go to look up this, what could it be? What could he meant by Ifrican? What is Ifri? Better. It meant superior. And here are the aprons, or wampum belts, that the indigenous military men were wearing. And that's and I also want to read y'all this last thing, guys. Somebody said the African Lodge. Wowzers, exactly. On the 251st anniversary, I discovered that it said African. Ifri is different from Afri. Afri is different from Afro. So these men consider themselves superior. That was his handwriting. It wasn't a typed up version of what he said. I'm about to read you a typed up version of something he said, because they tried to pretend like, Prince Hall wanted to repatriate Americans back to Africa. He never said that. He never fucking said that. So why was so much money spent on turning Prince Hall into a liar? The only thing I can think of is the fact that it's so many Black Americans. This is a Black American organization. It's the oldest organization in America, period. But it's also a bloodline. And I also want you guys to take note of the fact that the Titles of Nobility Act was written after this. So there was no more titles after these princes that were fighting in the Revolutionary War, these Black guys. Because then one would have to ask, well, who was the king? Prince of what? Prince from where? And now you will have to change the indigenous tribe from being some kind of savages to being actual savvy people who were operating in kingdoms over here, very wealthy kingdoms. And now you will have to take account, where's the money? What happened to the industries? We see the inventions. We've always had the inventions. The math was the same exact math that Benjamin Banneker was using. It's the same exact math that the Mayans was using. It's the same exact math that the Masons, the Black, Negro, colored, darky Masons were using. Now, you use the Prince Hall story to say these were the first Black Masons. Okay, well, maybe they were the first to call themselves Black. That's what you want to say. Maybe these were the first men that you turned Black, if that's what they're saying. But let's read something else about Prince Hall here. This is, back in the 1700s and the early 1800s, and further than that. Back as old as American records can date back, the registers were printed in like a newspaper form. Yes, Ephri is also in the Bible, absolutely. So what's the Ephrican? It's just spelled with an F, but that didn't miss me either. Yes, the apron is a breech. Thank you. It's a breechcloth. Now you following this. See, the breechcloth is what the Indians called it. Some tribes called it a wampum belt. Some tribes called it a breechcloth. Someone said, I wonder if it's also African Methodist. Hello? This is one of his petitions to the American government, or the Continental Congress, where and they used this to try to paint him as he wanted to repatriate, to send black people to Africa, because they think you'll never find it, you'll never see it, but we're going to enlarge it here. Okay. And it reads, to the honorable, the Senate and House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in General Assembly, on the 27th February 1788, the petition of a great number of blacks, freemen in said Commonwealth, humbly showeth that your petitioners are justly alarmed at the inhumane and cruel treatment that 3 of our brethren, free citizens of the town of Boston, lately received. They went to petition Congress about 3 people. Why did they do that? Free citizens of the town of Boston lately received a captain under the pretense that his vessel was in distress on an island below in this harbor, having got them on board, put them in irons, and carried them off from their wives and children to be sold as slaves. This being the unhappy state of these poor men, what can your petitioners expect but to be treated in fair manner by the same sort of men? What then are our lives and liberties worth if they, enlarge this one, and it's kind of chopped off here at the top. It's really chopped off. Okay, but we're going to go to the second. Time past beheld with grief ships cleared out from this harbor for Africa, and there they either steal or cause others to steal. Our brothers and sisters filled their ship holds full of unhappy men and women, crowded together, then set out to find the best market to sell them there, like sheep for the slaughter, and then return here like honest men after having sported with the lives and liberties of their fellow men, and at the same time calling themselves Christians. Blush, O heavens, at this. These are weighted grievances we cheerfully submit to your honors without differentiating. I don't know what that says. It's kind of hard as words are scrambled there. In the least, knowing by experience that your honors have, and we trust ever will, in your wisdom, do us that justice that our present conditions requires, as God and the good laws of this commonwealth shall dictate to you, and as in duty bound your petitioners shall ever pray. Prince Hall. blush, oh heavens, at this. You all said Prince Hall was trying to send people to Africa and other places. Prince Hall was literally trying to stop foreign ships from coming into Boston, stealing artisans and captains and selling them off in other markets, in particularly Africa. We also had the Peace and Friendship Treaty that was during this same era, where when our American ships go into Africa, pirates was hopping on those ships. Now, when pirates get on those ships, they were stealing the captains off and then selling the captains into slavery. Very important artisans, very high-ranking military, indigenous military men, so into slavery. And then Prince Hall was painted as, this is just a spooky wookie organization. They do rituals, they chop heads of the ghosts off, drink the blood. They didn't have nothing to do with this group of Negroes. It had nothing to do with the Prince Hall people. These are the Marines, the few, the proud that you're looking at. The original that descended from the actual Indian tribes, indigenous tribes over here, who were just trying to stop their people from being stolen and taken to other places. Now, people misread that. He said, in this harbor, meaning here where I am, he was standing. In this harbor, they're being stolen and taken away. We need to stop that. We need to do something. Help us. This was after the Revolutionary War. This was after Prince Hall and a lot of black, dark-skinned indigenous men start taking over some of these foreign vessels. What all were they trying to stop? They were trying to stop people from coming on the land, and they were trying to stop people from being stolen. Because if you steal people, then the land is free and clear. And now you're coming in as foreigners, and you're taking over land because you've already stolen the top ranking person from this port. You already stolen the top ranking person and sent them somewhere else to be put into slavery. I think I'm going to stop here, guys. I've hit my timer multiple times. I'll be back on here tomorrow. We're going to break some more stuff down. This just goes on and on and on. Of course, I can break this stuff down to the letter. I'll show you this last thing. United States flag. Somebody asked me about this flag. The most important thing on this flag is the snake at the top. You see the snake at the top? It says, "This we will defend." You see the snake? 1775. You're looking at one of the Iroquois Confederacy flags. Iroquois just means black snake. So anytime you see these military flags with the snake on, you're looking at someone is giving reverence to the Iroquois Confederacy. The military is giving reverence to the Iroquois Confederacy in some ways, but you have to kind of break down what all the symbols on the flag is. I know the snake at the top. That goes also with the yellow don't tread on me flag with the snake on it. The snake is the Iroquois Confederacy. That's what it means. That's why they started using the term Haudenosaunee instead of Iroquois Confederacy, because some people said Haudenosaunee was offensive. And so they started going by Iroquois was offensive. So they started going by the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, which during the Civil War, you will see the Haudenosaunee Confederacy again on the water for the Confederate. Now, the Confederate seems spooky, but a Confederate was just a term that the Indians was using. Haudenosaunee Confederacy, Iroquois Confederacy. That's what the Indians were doing. The military Indians, that's what they were doing. Now, a lot of the smaller tribes, maybe they weren't doing it, but the larger tribes who confederate together to protect the coastline and protect the inland waterways and the inland lands. So don't tread on me meant do not come on my land. Now, when white people came over here and treaded on our lands, they then stole that flag, and now they wave that flag in their trucks today. Because when you steal people's land and you successfully do it, you take their flag and now it's your flag. The black snake also goes all the way back to the Mayan dynasty, the snake dynasty, which they was also using, again, the same math. That's it for today, guys. Thank you for the super chat. Scipio the Great, thank you. I got my pen and paper ready. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. He said I can't. Okay, I got you. I need your name on the website so I can make sure that you're not blocked. Okay, just give me your name on the website so I can make sure that you're not blocked. Thank you for the super chat, Aquil. I am the transporter on there. Okay, got you. I got you. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Again, guys, if you like this kind of content, please don't just come on here and get not support me. Share the live, support the channel. Some YouTubers get minimum 20,000 a show, guys. 20,000 a show to come on here and say bull. And then they still get super chats as if they're not getting paid $20,000 by some of these organizations. 20,000 minimum. Some get way more than that. And they just keep it very quiet. But a lot of us, those of us who are doing actual research, and I can assure you this research will be taken it further, or they'll leave it just like I have it and repeat it as if they did the research. I discovered this stuff. I started unpacking this stuff last year, just didn't say anything about it until now. So it takes a lot of hard work to sit down and research things like this and try to surgically unpack in source files to try to back up what you're saying. It takes a lot. This is not an easy task. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it instead of waiting for somebody else to do it and then copy it. If it was easy, it takes a lot of time. So please support the channel. It's free to click like. It's free to share. And you can donate if you'd like. That would be great. I know a lot of times channels like this don't get sponsored because people don't value information like this. But with everything that's going on with Black America, Negro darkies, our whole history being just wiped away, changed, so forth and so on, this is information that we absolutely should value. There's a content creator right now with 30,000 people in his chat, and he's only talking about what happened on Twitter today. It is important to share proper information for the sake of your children. I don't have children. I lost my child. So for those of you who have children, it's important that you share information like this with people who have children, because by the time your children become adults, we'll all be African. There will be no Ifri. Nobody was paying attention to what Prince Hall was saying and what he was doing, because this could have been cleared up a long time ago. It could have been cleared up had at least one person went to try to source what was Prince Hall saying, instead of putting on African Moroccan looking ass fezzes and doing fish fries. My granddaddy was a 33rd degree Mason from the Green Mountain Lodge. He never wore a fez. He built mansions, actually worked. The guys from his era didn't just sit around and do fish fries and let the community around them burn. They didn't do that. Anyway, guys, that's that. Thank you for the super chat. It's an excellent work. Thank you. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the show. Like I said, I didn't want to make these daily lives long. I think an hour is good. I I'm sure some people still want to talk to me. But if y'all want me to come on here every day, which I really do want to come on here every day, we got to make these shows a little short, because people have very short attention spans. No matter how good the research is, people have short attention spans. Okay. Anyway, I love you guys. I love you guys so much. And for those of you who are saying, I don't know what questions you may have. However, just hold your questions if you can. We'll put your questions in the chat when I end the video. Put your questions in the comment section. I answer whatever question I can to expand the conversation. Maybe if some indigenous researchers that are wheels are spinning in their head and you want to put two and two together, we do have leeway to talk in the comment section to further the conversation, because I'm sure I missed something. It's a lot of tabs that I wanted to show y'all, but we're on a time crunch here. So there's a lot of research that went into this, and I didn't even explain everything, but I hit the key points. I mainly wanted to show you guys what Prince Hall was trying to say, that he have on a wampum belt. He also have the stars around his necklace. It's very American. It never gave anything else but American. Okay. And I think I wanted to show y'all one other thing, but we'll do it on a later date. All right. I love y'all. Bye.